Hello, every pony. My name is Fauna Joy. I got a new microphone. Yay! Last time we touched upon Zecora and her possible origins. This time I'd like to touch upon her current home, the Everfree Forest. I haven't really been able to find a single theory that the fandom has rallied around as far as the origins of the forest or the tree of harmony that resides within it. The theories I've found range from somewhat mundane wild magic to rather macabre leftovers from a major war in Equestria's past. Today, I'd like to put forth my own theory that's a bit less dark. I've been thinking about this for a while. The Everfree seems to be an incredible oddity in Equestria, a place rife with magic of all kinds, yet nearly all the magic in the Everfree seems foreign to the ponies, mainly because it operates independently of everything else. There's also the Tree of Harmony. It's a protective magic independent of not just the ponies, but the forest too. So where in Equestria did it come from? Well, I think I've come up with a plausible answer. Let's look at that map of Equestria I pulled up in the last episode. Now, Canterlot is the political and literal center of Equestria, but I don't think it's a coincidence that it's so close to the Everfree Forest. Even before Celestia and Luna came to power, there would have been a need to watch over something so wild as the forest. So, in order to keep an eye on it, the ancient rulers who founded Canterlot and the country that preceded Equestria built the city in a place where they could easily watch for trouble and bring the forest back under control if anything bad happened. As far as the forest itself, my theory is that while Canterlot is the political center of Equestria, the Everfree Forest is the magical center of Equestria. Ponies as a species have been living on the continent for an unknown amount of time. We know of at least one civilization that was there before Equestria existed, the one we were shown during the Hearthwarming play, and we know Equestria proper has existed for an excess of 1,000 years. There are many theories that Celestia and Luna were likely hundreds of years old even at the time when they took the elements of harmony from the tree, and they've been ruling Equestria since they were fillies. So we can probably assume that pony kind has been on the equestrian continent for several thousand years. Even without the headcanon that alicorns once ruled the world, that's still a long time for magical creatures to be populating an area, especially creatures that constantly use their magic on the land itself like the earth ponies do. Over time, the continent they populate began to evolve alongside them, becoming completely dependent on their presence to function. That is, except for this one spot in the center, the forest. Why? Well, one common theme in magical tales is the idea that places populated by magical creatures gather magical energy in the land itself. But it doesn't just lay dormant in the ground where it lands. This magic travels through the earth along what are called ley lines, acting like rivers. And like a river, there's a place at the end where the magic gathers in a pool called a node. Nodes can be artificially manipulated or even created by creatures sensitive enough to sense it. These nodes are basically harmless, usually the size of ponds and small lakes. Magic users will often build settlements over them, and non-magic users are usually none the wiser unless they're specifically told what's beneath them. Even then, depending on the setting, they often aren't affected by the node because it's just a pool of energy, harmless until directed. However, depending on the origin of the magic and the size of the node, it's likely the magic could have an effect on the land and its inhabitants. But even then, the magical power of a land is relatively evenly spread out among these nodes. But that assumes that a land operates on the foundation of multiple lines and nodes. I think Equestria is different. I think they have countless lines and only one colossal node. This node is the Everfree Forest. This is why the Everfree is so magical while the rest of Equestria is relatively plain. It also explains why it doesn't need ponies to regulate its ecosystem. Anytime ponies use their magic, no matter what kind, some small part of it drifts off into the ley lines and into the Everfree node. This magic is colored with the identity of what magic was being done at that time. As the ponies went about their daily lives, the forest absorbed the abilities of the earth ponies to tend the land, the abilities of the Pegasi to manipulate the weather, the abilities of any animal caretaker to raise and feed animals, and just the general magic of unicorns. This alone, though, wouldn't cause the forest to grow chaotically out of control. The magic ponies let off in their everyday lives is relatively neutral in alignment. If it was just the average citizens of Equestria who were releasing magic into the ley lines, then it's possible the Everfree would be nothing more than a benign curiosity in the equestrian world. But it hasn't just been the average citizens releasing magic. As viewers, the show has given us 6 major evil sources of magic that appeared long ago in Equestria's history: Nightmare Moon, Discord, Chrysalis, Sombra, Tirek, and the Sirens. And these are just the ones we know about. Other than the Sirens, each of these villains have returned to Equestria at one point or another. And other than Nightmare Moon, each of these villains were in power for some time. Even imprisoned as Discord and Sombra were, they were still magically present, releasing evil energies into the land. While it may not have been enough energy to noticeably affect the ponies around them, it would have easily been enough to steadily feed the Everfree Forest and taint the neutral magics of the ponies. And no, Nightmare Moon didn't supply any evil energy. There aren't any ley lines to the moon, I think. I would like to point out that I'm not necessarily saying the ponies themselves are all inherently good. There have been more than a few ponies in the show who have been less than scrupulous and would taint the magic they use. Not as much as the evil entities I name, but get enough unscrupulous ponies releasing tainted magic through the years, and they could do almost as much harm as the big sources of evil. During times of peace, the Everfree would probably be teeming with just as much dark magic as it would with neutral magic, resulting in the forest we know right now. A little dangerous, but not really life-threatening if you're an adult pony. So not much more dangerous than your average forest on Earth. However, there are those surges of evil magic to contend with. An evil being like Sombra, Discord, or Chrysalis being in high power for an extended period of time would greatly unbalance the amount of dark magic versus neutral magic entering the forest. The result we would see of all this dark magic would likely be uncontrollable growth of all the dangerous plants and animals we know live there today. Plants like Poison Joke and animals like the timber wolves and crocodiles. But here's the thing. Nature always seeks a balance of some kind. So the dark magic and the neutral magic begin to fight with each other in a way, each trying to gain supremacy over the other. So the animals and plants filled with the magics of each kind begin to either flourish or die depending on what's going on at the moment. It's at this time that the forest is at its most dangerous and is most likely where most of the fables about how dangerous the forest is came from. Eventually, though, the plants and animals will calm. The burst of growth and fighting for supremacy will die down, resulting in the forest we know right now. The two magics have gained a balance, rendering the forest relatively harmless. But once all the energy from those evil creatures has been exhausted and wrangled, there is still a steady stream of dark energy coming in. It's just much smaller. And we all know that there's never really a perfect balance of good and evil in the minds of ponies or people. So why isn't the forest in constant flux as this balance shifts? That's where things get really interesting. We know an individual pony's magic is somehow tied to their whole life, past, present, and future from the moment of their birth. This could mean that the collective destiny of the pony species is tied into pony magic in general. Pony kind under the rule of the 4 princesses bring peace not just to Equestria, but the rest of the globe. You could even say it's their destiny to do so. This collective destiny colors their magic as much as their intentions. It's that destiny that created the Tree of Harmony, something that would be needed to ensure a safe and peaceful future. It's the tree that regulates the balance of dark and neutral magic during the times of peace. The roots of the tree connect to the node, and the regulatory magic of the tree lets in only the right amount of dark and neutral magic at a time to keep balance. As the tree grew in power, gathering more and more magic and the flavor of pony destiny, the elements of harmony were created for those who would need them. This is why the tree has the cutie marks of Celestia, Luna, and Twilight. These 3 are integral parts of maintaining peace and thus balance in the world. The elements were forged for those enemies the 3 couldn't defeat by usual means. They're filled with the excess magic the tree pulls in when it needs to maintain the correct balance, making them incredibly powerful artifacts. But, as is only proper, these elements are not meant to be taken permanently, lest the balance of the forest be destroyed, thus unleashing the magic the tree is containing upon the world. This magic would run wild over Equestria, causing mayhem everywhere. To keep the elements is to destroy yourself. But if this is true, why would Celestia, who seems to know everything about magic in the land, with a mentor like Starscroll the Bearded, keep the elements even when she didn't need them? Well, quite simply because she didn't know exactly what the tree and the elements were. She knew they contained powerful magic, yes, but not how integral they were to keeping Equestria safe, even remaining in the tree. Even Celestia makes mistakes. After all, she isn't a goddess like so many like to name her. So, if the elements store the magic the tree gathers, then does that mean they have a limited use? Not necessarily. After all, they're based around the magic of balance and harmony. This means that when the elements are used by a pony or ponies in harmonious balance, they're drawing upon the energy within the bearer. Luna and Celestia had this balance together and thus were able to use them together. Celestia was able to use the elements alone against Nightmare because the very existence of Nightmare Moon, a former bearer of some of the elements, created a major imbalance in the world that had to be rectified. And then, of course, there's the main six. These six definitely balance each other out. When things are out of control panicky, Applejack tends to calm and center the group. When everyone's lost their way and need guidance, Twilight provides that guidance. When the group needs to be brought out of a rage and around to the lighter side of things, Fluttershy helps them see that light. When the lighter side isn't gonna do it and a good flank kicking is needed, Rainbow Dash will rile them up for it. When everyone's in the dumps and ready to give into their depression, Pinkie Pie will cheer everybody up. And my goodness, does Rarity have more than enough determination to haul the rest of the main six along when they're not sure about the path they've chosen. This is why the main six have been granted the powers of the tree directly through the chest, the cutie map, and the castle. They may stumble now and then in their respective elemental representations, but they're always there to bring each other back around to the right path, preserving balance among the six of them for as long as they'll be together. There will always be darkness in society, be it major or minor. The main six, empowered by the magic of the tree, can protect a growing society from evil entities and the lure of darker behavior and magic much better than a stationary tree with temporary use elements could ever hope to. And I'm still holding to my previously stated theory that the main six are now ageless because of the tree's influence. And if I'm even close to correct about the Everfree being the magical center of Equestria, then I'll be even more convinced. Alright folks, the next episode is gonna be a biggin', because I'm going to be taking a look at how magic works in the Equestria Girls human world, and that is going to require a little change of wardrobe. Until then, this is Fauna Joy, flying off. Or the Tree of Harmony that rises. The theories I found range from rather mundane wild magic to incredibly macabre bleh. As far as the forest myself, I'm not a forest. Why am I saying myself? At any time the ponies use their magic, it helps not to add words in the middle of a line. The abilities of any animal caker. The result of all this dark magic would likely be uncontrollable. The two magics have gained a balance. The roots of the tree connect to the node and regulate them. The roots of the tree connect to the node, and the regulatory magic of the tree lies only in the. They are filled with that. After all, they're based around the magic of words. Celestia was able to use the elements alone against Nightmare because the very existence of when everyone's in the dumps and ready to give in to their depression, when the group needs to be brought out of a rage and around to the lighter side of things, not Applejack, Applejack's already been mentioned. They may stumble now and then in their respective elemental. Hi everyone, Fauna here. As I said at the end of this episode, my next one is going to be all about magic in the Equestria Girls world. And since the new movie is coming out in about 2 weeks, this time I'm going to intentionally delay my episode so I can include that one in my episode as well. So be patient, please. Thank you, everybody.